Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. It's Johnny here from MTV Trail Rider. Today we are going to be walking through the process of upgrading your Fox Rhythm fork that comes on your Polygon Siskiu T8. We got this one here. This is the stock Fox Rhythm fork. It's the 34. I'm going to be upgrading it with the DVO Diamond D1 fork, which is actually for sale on Bikes Online. And it is on sale right now, I believe sub $500, which is an excellent deal, and I'll have links in the description to make it easy for you to find both of these products for you. And anything that I use in this video will make it easy for you to get what you need and walk through this process. And I'm going to do this. I am not a bike shop. I am not someone who has all the greatest and perfect tools that you need for all of your upgrades and changes that you might need to be done on your bike. So I'm going to show you how it can be done and how I do it. So let's get to it. And after this, I will have probably upgraded everything on this bike except for the crankset and the brakes. I think is the only thing that hasn't been upgraded yet on this bike. So I'll be doing some updates in the future and the coming weeks on everything I've been doing on here. So let's get to it. First thing we need to do is get this fork off of the bike, and I'm going to start by getting the brakes removed. Now that our brake is unhooked from the fork, I'm going to be loosening the stem, these side bolts here. The top cap is still tight, so that way the fork doesn't completely drop out on me, but these are going to be loose. Beginning to loosening this top cap, I'm going to hold on to the fork underneath because I don't want this to just completely drop to the floor. The handlebars will be coming off, dropping those down, right? And then I'm going to keep track of all of these spacers that I currently have. You can see that this is what it came with, stock. I haven't done anything with the spacers. And then as I'm dropping this, we can see we've got like the part of the headset that we're kind of dealing with, and keep track of the order that all of these kind of go in. Got this here. There we go. You see that? All right. So we got the fork off. We're going to wipe some of this down. We're going to clean up kind of around the headset pieces, everything, since we got it all open. Now, I was hoping that this crown race was like a split crown race. It's not, but you will notice that on this fork there's this little divot right here that's perfect for a flathead screwdriver to kind of get in there and pop this up. I don't know if you can kind of see that moving. It doesn't take a whole lot of force, but I'm just going to kind of walk this around. If you have a fork, like if you're doing this on not a Polygon, so I don't know kind of the situation. There are different types of crown races. Some, if it's like a split ring crown race, those are super nice because you just kind of pop them in. But you can see I'm just trying to like walk this around. This is actually about to pop off right here. It's about to get loose. I'm just going around because I don't want to bend it. This does not take a lot of force, okay? I should not be like jamming this or kind of forcing this anywhere, okay? You just saw that break loose, right? Because we'll need this for getting it onto our other fork. All right, so now that we've got the Fox 34 taken off, right? You can see that now with the new fork, the stem is significantly longer, right? So we obviously need to cut this down. If you are wanting to change your stem length, like if you want to add more spacers, if you were wanting to take spacers off and you just want the extra kind of sticking above your top cap, you can stick this in after you get everything on. Like once we put the crown race back on, I'll show you that in a second. You can kind of put it back into your frame and get it measured. I am actually just going to measure the length of this and then cut this. So against the end, and I'm going to measure it. I'm right at 7 5/16. I'm going to go 7 5/16. I'm going to mark this. So this tool here, this is a pipe cutter. You can use a hacksaw. You could use a lot of tools that can cut metal at your own discretion, right? So there are guides that you can actually buy to put into vice grips. I don't have vice grips. I do have a hacksaw. I do have other metal grinders and cutters, but this is a tool, just got off Amazon, a few bucks. If you haven't used these before, you've got these two like bearings in here. You want that to kind of sit inside, right? And then you just kind of twist this to get where we need to be. And I'm going to turn this just that way I can see where my line is. So you can see how it's in those wheels here. You got the blade. I'm just going to twist that. And then I'm just going to wrap this around. And every so often I'll kind of crank a little bit more. I can hear it kind of popping here. So I say it's got its built-in file. This is not a file. This is a piece of crap. So don't use this for the file. So I got some burrs on here. I've got another tool in the garage. I'm gonna come in here and just kind of grind that down a little bit to get those burrs off. There are specific tools you can use. There's one that you can actually stick on the end of the steer tube and kind of twist, and that cleans it up real nice. I don't know what that costs, but that's a very very specific tool. So I'm not going to worry about that. So one thing I'm really excited about, the DVO Diamond D1 fork that's going to be on this new Siskiu T8, is just the level of tuning that you have with this fork. This is certainly an upgrade from the Fox Rhythm that comes stock on the T8. So the Fox Rhythm, it has obviously just your standard compression and rebound, and that's it for tuning on your Fox Rhythm. The other thing you can do is add air tokens or volume spacers to your Fox Rhythm, and I certainly did that. That's a way for you to tune your fork a little bit more, and that just allows you to ramp up the compression ratio faster, so it can be a little bit softer, and the further you move in, the harder it is to compress. So it is important to use those. I have made videos on that, so you can see kind of more the thought process on why you would use volume spacers, when to use volume spacers. The DVO does not have volume spacers. There are ways for you to add volume spacers by adding more oil. However, I'm not going to talk about that right now. There's a lot of other options in here. So on here, you have a low speed and high speed compression adjustment. So that's different from the Fox 34 Rhythm. Also, there's your rebound, obviously, but there's what DVO, just their terminology, is called OTT. It's off the top. This allows you to set your air fork and air pressure to where you want the feeling and support in like your mid strokes and kind of further at the end of the stroke. And then you're off the top, you can increase the sensitivity for like your braking bump sensitivity, your smaller bumps, the initial stroke. I think it goes up to 50 millimeters of travel is kind of how the OTT makes adjustments for. So you can have it very much like a magic carpet type feeling when you're over like your kind of rock gardens or just kind of like your braking bumps, where it just kind of absorbs those they're really sensitive over those things, so it just kind of absorbs that, but you can still have the support later in your travel through your air pressure. So it's really cool. We'll kind of get into that into later videos and really kind of talk about this DVO D1 with the Siskiu T8 and just all sorts of stuff later on. But I want to show you, kind of just wanted to briefly mention to you why we're upgrading this, because there is a lot more to this. This is definitely more for the tinkerers out there for suspension rather than the set it and forget it type group. But next step, adding the crown race back on. As you can see, it doesn't just pop on. If we had the snap ring, that would be perfect, because you can just kind of go in here. The snap ring is basically, it's cut on one side, so it kind of has a little bit of flex when you're on here. So you could get by a specific tool, which is a metal tube that fits right over top of this, and it just compresses this down evenly down. You could also probably get a large PVC pipe and drop it in here and do the same thing. I don't have either, so I'm actually just going to slowly, with a soft mallet, just kind of like how we did taking this off, I'm gonna do the same, just kind of inching this away, inching this around. There's that little ridge you kind of need to help get over. Once you're over that, it's a little bit smoother. Don't get too rough with this because you don't want to bend or damage your crown race. Now, I'm not too worried about this. I've got kind of a soft mallet here. We want to make sure that this is all the way down though, right? I'm sure there's a lot of bike mechanics out there and a lot of other riders who are cringing right now. But this also has that little ridge in there too. So when I need to pop this off eventually, I can just like we did before. Next step is actually, I'm gonna add the Fangled nut into this. So this is actually a tool that I did get because this was sub $5 on Amazon and it included several Fangled nuts. So how this works is you will put your Fangled nut, you'll screw it on, right? And then I will drop this in, push it through. See that? So then I'm going to drop this in over the steer tube. I am now inside at the distance I need, and then I'm going to hammer that down. Once this gets down flush, I'm at my distance. Starting to get darker out here, so apologize here, but looks like we're good to go. All right, so if you're worried about it like kind of like going too far, there's actually a ridge inside here, and that's what will go to the top of your steer tube to kind of give you the right distance. So if you weren't sure, like you can see how that's like flush or just about. There we go. Now it's flush. I take this off and then I just unscrew it. There you go. Now we're at the right distance. I hope the quality is staying okay. It's starting to get dark on me now. I'm using this some grease from Park Tool. I'm going to just get around the top and the bottom. This is more, I'm using this kind of like as like a water barrier more so than anything. But do not overly cake this on because this is also an attractor to dirt. All right, so next up, we are gonna start putting the fork back in. Here we got the bearing. Just gonna drop this in to make that easier. Make sure we got our cables kind of worked around, right? Just wanna make sure make that job easier when I'm coming back. Make sure that stays on top. Just kind of follow all the pieces you took off. That should be pretty self-explanatory, right? All of these spacers back on because I want to keep this just exactly how I had it before. Rotating the stem back on. So I want to show you guys this here. I know it's starting to get really dark, so this might be getting grainy on you guys, but you can see kind of where that stem is. Hope it's focusing on that. You can see there's just a few millimeters of gap from the top of the steer tube and the top of the stem. That is what we're looking for, right? Because that is what, because that's how we kind of fully compress everything in together, fully compress the bearings and everything else that we need. I got this top cap. Not going to be tightening this in super tight yet. I just want this in so that way it's not going to, so my fork isn't going to drop out. We are just about done, right? So the next steps from us here is to get this straight, make sure that we are in line. You can do this easier when you have the wheel and everything hooked up. But now I'm going to start tightening down the top cap, and then we'll tighten down the stem, and then it's just getting the wheel back on. And then we are all wrapped up for this install for you. All right, guys, we are all wrapped up there with getting that DVO fork installed. Like I said, the last steps were just there, tightening up the top cap, just enough to where it's just secure. You don't want to over crank it, right? Because you don't want to damage any of the bearings. Once you kind of crank it down a little bit more, you want to run that test again, making sure there's no any type of restrictions, because if it is too tight, you will feel it and you'll feel like you're restricted in your handlebar movements. That's one test. but also just tighten down the sides of the stem, and you are good to go. Get your wheel back on, get your brake set back up. And there's other tutorials out there on how to really realign your brake calipers, your brake pads back up with your rotors and everything like that. So that would be your next step in the process. I hope this was helpful, specifically with what we're doing with the T8, upgrading from the Fox Rhythm fork into the DVO Diamond D1. Make sure you check out the links I have below for Bikes Online for any of those parts and accessories. They have a lot of other Fox suspension on there as well. I did also upgrade my shock to the DVO Topaz Air Gen 3 something. So we'll kind of go through all of that in future videos and kind of talk through this process. Really excited to kind of get back moving with this channel and get going through here. I hope, again, like I said, I hope this was helpful. If you do have any questions or anything along the way of what I did, do reach out in the comments, because I am very active in there in the comment section. So if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And you can also find me on Instagram, where I'm active as well. Sometimes that's easier to track me down because I do not get notified on YouTube very well. Instagram's a little bit easier for that type of conversation. So thanks again for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks.